Hello everyone, my name is Mark. I hope you're all having a great day. The reason I'm making this, I'm really concerned about the upcoming 2012 presidential election for several reasons. One, back in 2008, just about 2 months prior to the presidential election, there was one news agency that had people go out on the streets in some major cities around the United States, and they would randomly pick people and ask them who they were supporting. And of course, you had people that were supporting John McCain. You had people that were supporting Barack Obama. And they would ask them 2 or 3 questions just to get a general consensus of if the person had general knowledge into the candidate they were supporting. And I found it very interesting that one of the questions they used over and over again with a lot of Obama supporters was, what do you think of his vice presidential running mate, Sarah Palin? And it amazed me, a lot of people would come up and say, oh, well, I like her, or she's okay. I remember one in particular, a young lady said, oh gosh, I love Sarah Palin. I think she's great. She'd be a great vice president. Well, that just showed me how uneducated and uninformed the voters were in 2008. And I feel you should really be up on events, what's going on, and have some insight into the candidates. But another thing that concerns me, and this came up recently, and this goes back to some of Obama's supporters, they don't even know, or some of them don't know, the difference between median income and middle income. And it's like, I feel that people should either educate themselves on the issues. If they're not educated, ask somebody or research on the internet, which is very easily to do. But another thing that concerns me, and I noticed this happening back in late 2007 and 2008, the news media I felt was biased towards Barack Obama. But at the time, I felt as though it was probably because he was our first black or African American presidential candidate. And, so they were trying to, do whatever they could to get their ratings up. And we all know how they are about ratings. So I didn't think a great deal about it at that time. But over the past 3.5 years since the election, I've noticed that they've kept that bias. And this is the mainstream media, which accounts for probably about 98% of the media outlets. And about 4 to 5 months back, there were right at a dozen employees that are journalists for different news outlets that came forth and did so under the condition that they could remain anonymous. And they were saying how that whenever they reported or wanted to report on a story that involved White House staff or President Obama, whatever story they wanted to report on and what they wanted to report word for word had to be sent to Washington. It had to be approved by the White House, and in which most instances the wording was changed, sometimes the topics were changed, but however it came back from the White House, that's how they were told they had to report it by their bosses. Now, if that's not being biased, I really don't know what is. And here, most recently, about 2.5 weeks ago, there were actually 4 journalists who quit their jobs stating the same thing. And one of them said that she was just tired of playing the games, that she was not allowed to be a journalist, which is what she went to school and trained for, which a journalist is supposed to, come up with facts and report the stories unbiasedly and honestly. And she said she was unable to do that because everything had to be for Barack Obama, that they couldn't do it honestly and unbiasedly. So that also concerns me about the election. And another thing that kind of concerns me is why Barack Obama moved the presidential vote count for 2012 to Spain. There's some reason behind that, and God only knows what it is, because, I think that's very un-American. As many people as we have out of work here in the United States, and so many millions that have run out of unemployment benefits and still don't have a job, there's plenty of people out there that would love just to have a few days worth of work. But, speaking of un-American, another thing I want to bring up about Obama, back in 2008, he made the remark that George Bush was un-American because during his 8-year term as president had spent a little over $4 trillion, and Barack Obama went on and on about how that was un-American. Well, here we are just a little over 3.5 years into Obama's presidency, and he's run up almost $6 trillion. Well, wouldn't that be more un-American than George Bush? And not only that, but here's another one for you. Our president, I feel, should be setting an example. And here's something most of you probably didn't know, but there are several buses that he uses for his bus tours. Those buses were purchased from a Canadian bus manufacturer. Why would you buy from a Canadian bus manufacturer when we have our own bus manufacturing companies here in the United States? Keep the work here at home. But for some reason, that doesn't hit, the media outlets in a big way, and people don't question that. But I guarantee you, if a Republican was doing that, there'd be all kinds of hell raised. And by the way, I'm an independent voter. I've been known to vote Republican, and I've been known to vote Democrat. But when I vote based on facts and who I feel is going to be the best candidate for the American people overall. Not what I want, but for America as a whole. And I think that's the way people should vote. Anyway, I hope that this video will get people to do some fact checking on their own. Quit listening to the biased media. Do some fact checking on your own, and do some real honest searching and asking yourself some serious questions, and then come back and answer why you support Barack Obama in 2012. And I would appreciate it if you'd be honest, no haters, none of this racist stuff, but just an honest answer, because I'm really curious as to why anybody would support him. It amazed me why anyone would, so therefore I'm just curious. One thing I'd like to bring up first of all is, a lot of people keep questioning and demanding 10 years of Mitt Romney's tax returns. Why are you demanding 10 years of tax returns other than Obama bringing it up? And I'll tell you why I believe he's bringing it up, and that's to get the voters' attention off of the real issues, which are jobs and the economy. I mean, yes, there are qualifications, including tax returns, that presidential candidates have to provide. Well, Mitt Romney has provided the tax returns that are required by federal law in order to run for president. So that should be enough. But Barack Obama brings this up, like I said, to distract the people, and then Harry Reid makes the remark that Romney hadn't paid taxes in 10 years. Well, every American should have known when that statement came out of Harry Reid's mouth that it was a lie, because I think we all know that if you hadn't paid taxes in 10 years, the IRS would have already seized your properties and your bank accounts. That's the way they work, and I think we all know that. And Harry Reid goes on to accuse Mitt Romney of having money in offshore accounts, blah, blah, blah. Well, if you do some fact checking and some digging, you'll find that Harry Reid has money in offshore accounts as well in other countries. So, Harry Reid has no room to open his mouth at all. As a matter of fact, Harry Reid, when he's in Washington working, he doesn't do like most other senators and congressmen and have a little modest apartment, and even some of the politicians sleep in their office to save the taxpayers' money. But Harry Reid stays at the Ritz-Carlton for about $4,500 a month. How does he afford that other than, maybe some payoffs from people? I really don't know. Obama talks about taxing the rich. They need to pay their fair share. Well, have you ever heard Obama say what dollar amount they pay, what percentage of taxes, anything of that nature? Absolutely not. And I'll tell you why. It's nothing more than Obama trying to pit the poor and the middle class against the rich. That's all he's trying to do, is create class warfare. Because the reason he doesn't come out with any statements as to how much they pay, the actual facts are, and I ask you to please do your fact checking here and you'll find out the same thing, that the top 20% of the income earners in the United States actually pay right at 70% of the overall federal taxes in this country. That's right. So actually they pay more than their fair share. So, that stuff of Obama, all it is deceitful and trying to start, like I said, class warfare. As far as taxes go, Obama has promised over and over again not to raise taxes on the poor and the middle class. But yet in 2013, the lower middle class income from 23 up to, I think it's $50,000 a year, will see an increase of $4,100 a year in taxes. And that comes out to about $82 to $83 a week. Now, I don't know about you, but personally, that's really going to be devastating on me, with our economy the way it is. And I'm sure, it'll really put a hurting on most people. And it goes just against exactly what he's promised not to do the entire time. Also, business or corporation taxes. Right now, the U.S. has the highest corporate tax in the entire world at 35%. And yes, you can fact check that online. Well, Obama's raising that to 55%, a whole 20%. Now, what do you think that's going to do? I can tell you, that's going to mean more companies are going to be packing up and leaving the United States and moving abroad. And then your smaller companies, which are independently owned or family owned, they're not going to be able to afford the taxes, so they'll just go out of business. And realistically, and think about this, when that happens realistically, unemployment could be 70 or 80% by the middle of 2013. And I hate to say it, but I really look for this to happen. And a lot of you say, oh, no. Well, let me put it in another way or give you an example. If you were unemployed, you had 2 job interviews doing the same type of work for the exact same money, but it was in 2 different counties, and being as the counties have their own taxes, or let's do it differently. Let's make it a little easier. Say you live close to a state line. One job is just inside the state in which you live. The other job is 1 mile away into the next state. Well, the state that you live in, the taxes for federal, state, local, everything is 55%. But you can drive that extra mile and go across the state line into the next state and pay 35%. What are you going to do? You're going to go to where the taxes are cheaper. Business people will do the same thing. Some people say that taxes were higher when Bill Clinton was in office, and yes, they were in fact higher. Very, very little higher. Just marginally higher. And they say we had a booming economy. Well, yes, we did. And there were two reasons for that. And a lot of you will remember this, but you just don't bother to think back about it. That when Clinton was in office, we had import taxes. Everything that was imported from these foreign countries had to pay an import tax. So that helped our economy a great deal. And the reason everything was booming was because the housing industry was booming. And the housing industry was booming because you had Freddie Mac, Fannie Mae, and several banking institutions that were giving these home mortgages to people that they knew doggone good and well couldn't afford them. And they all knew that one day, or should have known, that one day all of it was going to come to a head. Well, it finally did. And that's when we went into our recession. But going back to Bill Clinton, one thing that Bill Clinton has done that has hurt this country, or I feel like has hurt this country, is toward the end of his administration, he signed NAFTA in. And what NAFTA did was did away with all the import tax. So right there went a lot of our government's revenue for imports from other countries. And they didn't have to live up to any regulatory standards like companies do that are operating here in the U.S. So that caused a lot of companies to start moving abroad. And ever since then, it's just been a continuous open door of companies moving abroad. And, you know, our government should have known well before now that they really needed to get their spending in line and come down with taxes if they wanted to keep corporations here. You know, because we're not competing with other countries as far as our tax rate. And, you know, just like the Obama administration, they refused to come up with a budget. Well, I'm sorry, that's inexcusable. I mean, we all have to live within budget means, all of us. Do you think you could go out and purchase a $50,000 or $60,000 vehicle, purchase a $600,000 or $700,000 home that you don't have the money to pay for, and go out and buy a lot of extravagant things, and walk in and tell your boss, well, hey, I bought all this. I need a $40,000 a year raise, and you've got to give it to me. No, that's not the way things work. So Obama's just really, to me, shown his disregard for the American people by doing this. At the Democratic National Convention, Obama asked for 4 more years to get the economy and jobs straightened out. Well, Bill Clinton also said that he couldn't have straightened out the economy in 4 years. And I find that real hard to believe. And the reason I say this, you know, I think Clinton did a fairly good job as president. But I think he's lying when he says that, because this country has been through many a recession. Some a lot worse than the one we're currently in. Yet each and every single time, the economy has been turned around in less than 4 years. So I think Barack Obama has had ample time. I just don't think he has what it takes to lead the United States into a positive direction. And another reason I say so is the unemployment. Unemployment is currently 8.2%. It's been up over 8% for 43 months. It's said that true unemployment, which would mean the people who no longer can draw unemployment benefits, that if you included those in, that it would be up around 14 to 15%. Black unemployment is a reported 14.4%, which is the highest in over 40 years. And they say if the true numbers were known, which would include those who no longer can receive benefits, that it would probably be in the neighborhood of 18 to 19%. And that right there is part of the reason you see so much more crime today, more robberies. There's so many out there that they've exhausted their unemployment benefits, still haven't had any luck. So they're just they're desperate to do whatever they can to survive. And, I think it's a shame. President Obama, he set up a jobs council to try and come up with ways to create jobs. Promised to meet with them regularly. Well, your top two people at the jobs council have resigned, with one of them stating that it appeared as though the jobs council was nothing but a big joke to Obama because he hasn't even met with them in over 8 months. Yes, 8 months. But yet, in the past 8 months, he's had time to go vacation, he's had plenty of time to play golf, plenty of time to fundraise. But no time to try and create jobs for the American people out there who are suffering. Now, what that tells me is that he really doesn't care that much. He's not that concerned about the unemployment of Americans, and the only job that he's concerned with is his own job. And that's a shame for somebody who's leading the country to show that. And it shows in just his actions. And actions speak a lot louder than words. Obama has given amnesty to the illegals. It's not permanent amnesty, it's temporary. But I think he did that for a couple of reasons. One of them being so he could get that extra vote there. But a lot of you don't realize, and you can look at the health care bill and find this out, but all the illegals in this country are going to get the Obama Affordable Health Care Plan, but they are exempt from having to pay the penalty/tax that the American citizens will have to pay. That's right. So, you and I are going to be footing the bills for them and their children, thanks to Obama. But while we're on the thing of the health care bill, I want to bring up a few things that are in it. First of all, in the health care bill, doctors will be required to have a handheld computer, which when they see a patient, they will be required to send the diagnosis to Washington, and there's a large panel set up there that's Obama already has in place. They will tell your doctor how to treat you. If your doctor veers from that, your doctor, he or she, will get a $100,000 fine for the first offense. Okay, your Medicare and Medicaid patients, there's going to be cuts in Medicare and Medicaid. Well, right now, as it stands, doctors are just breaking even and seeing these patients. And about 80% of the doctors, 86%, have said that when the reduced payments go into effect, they'll no longer see Medicare and Medicaid patients. So what's this going to do? Well, what it's going to do, there's going to be very few doctors to see those patients, which means whenever they need to see a doctor, it'll take them 8, 10, 12, 14 months to get in and see the doctor. Well, let's say your grandmother or maybe your elderly mother gets a respiratory infection. If it's going to take that long to see a doctor, chances are she's going to die from something that could have been very easily treated with antibiotics. So you're going to see a lot of people dying that could have been treated very easily and survived. The only other choice they'll have is to come up with $200 to $400 out of pocket to go and see the doctor of their choice. In which case most of these people can't afford to do because they're living on fixed incomes. So they're between a rock and a hard place. Also, in the health care bill, the government's going to have access to your bank accounts, to all your bank accounts. Yeah. Why do they need access to your bank accounts? But yeah, that's surely in there. and there's rationing. The Medicare patients still have to meet with a government employee once a year to go over their previous year's health-related issues and answer some questions. And at that time, it'll be determined what type of health care benefits they can receive the following year. As far as just the regular individual, not on Medicare or Medicaid, it's going to be rationed to $5,000 a year for singles, $10,000 a year for families. And I know a lot of you are saying, oh, yeah, right. We'll do some fact checking. Some of this information I got off of YouTube on a video, and the name of the video is Know the Truth About Government Healthcare Bill H.R. 3200 - Key Points. And I like the way the person did this video because it'll bring up one subject, just like the rationing of $5,000 for singles and $10,000 a year for families. And when they bring up that one subject, they'll tell you exactly what page and what paragraph to go through in the health care bill to find it, which, you know, is a very easy way for those of you who haven't read the health care bill to find some of this information, because I'm sure that 99.9% of you have not read the health care bill, which, by the way, you should, but it's lengthy. Another thing is you're going to be required to be microchipped. Yeah, just like a dog or a cat. That wasn't in the original health care bill, which the original health care bill is H.R. 3200, but this came just a little later in another bill, which is H.R. 4872. You know, getting back to these illegals that were given amnesty, you know, a lot of them, they'll work for cash, getting paid under the table to avoid taxes. And the government agencies, they have been told 3 years ago, and I've talked to several of them, that when someone comes in and they think they may be illegal, they are told, do not question them. Give them their benefits, let them go. So, you know, you have some people, and I have no earthly idea what percentage, but you'll have a certain percentage out there that will be working for cash money, getting welfare, food stamps, Section 8 housing, free lunches for their kids. And the government has already come out and said that there is, and news media organizations, where there are billions and billions of dollars being transferred from the United States to banks in Mexico every year. So that kind of tells me that these people, they're here, not all of them, but a lot of them, to take advantage of us here in the U.S. And when they get enough money in their bank accounts over there, which their economy is worse than us, you know, the peso's not worth what the dollar is, that they'll go back over there and live like rich people. And thanks to taking advantage of us. Someone had posted a comment about Mitt Romney that kind of concerns me. You know, I know people have differences of opinions, but this person made a statement that it was because Mitt Romney wanted to lower taxes for everybody, including those making up to $250,000 a year. And this particular person's statement was, or question, and excuse my language, but how in the hell does Mitt Romney think that you can cut taxes for everybody, including the rich, and still cut the deficit? It's impossible. Well, I'm sure there are other people out there who feel the same way. But the way you do it is, first of all, by cutting taxes, you get people spending a little more money. Well, as far as the rich go, your rich people, they're going to have more confidence in the economy becoming stabilized, so they'll in turn start businesses. They'll not only start businesses, they'll invest in other people's smaller businesses that want to grow their business but don't have the capital to do so. And it's twofold how you get the money there. First of all, you get millions of people off of unemployment, that saves billions of dollars a year that can be put towards a deficit. And then when you have those that have become employed paying taxes, whether or not it's just sales tax locally or, payroll taxes, the government can use that money to pay down the deficit. So, to me, I don't understand why people can't grasp that concept, because it's just common sense. Another thing I wanted to bring up was Obama admitting to being a Muslim. A lot of you say, no, he's not, he claims to be a Christian. Well, he has claimed twice on national TV to be Muslim, and as soon as he came out and said that, tried to backtrack. Well, I'm sorry, but personally I don't feel like if you're not Muslim, you're not going to come out with that to begin with. Not only that, but in one of his books, he claims that when times get tough or something like that, that he will stand with his Muslim faith. So there's another admission in one of his own books in black and white. You can read it. But this concerns me because Obama, he likes to sidestep protocol or the Constitution. Recently, he sidestepped, a vote amongst Congress to give money to a country. Well, he gave $250 billion to the Muslim Brotherhood. Well, the Muslim Brotherhood, they're known for their ties to terrorist organizations. So why in the world would you want to give taxpayer money to a group that has known ties to terrorist organizations? And now the Muslim Brotherhood, they're in charge of Egypt. And over in Egypt, you see Christians being crucified publicly out on the streets each and every day. And now you have the attacks on the American embassies abroad. So, to me, that kind of makes me wonder a little bit about Obama. And also the fact that about 5 months ago, I forget the guy's name, but it was one of the radical Muslims in Iraq had come out with a video calling for a jihad here in the United States on our soil, telling those radicals to either convert those of us to Islam that can be converted or kill us. And then you have Obama giving $250 billion to the Muslim Brotherhood, and then now at the end of the year he's severely cutting our military back. And you put it all together, and to me, I'm really scared for the safety and security of the United States. And that's not saying that Obama has anything to do with them, but it sure does raise a lot of suspicions, and should raise them amongst 100% of the American citizens, no matter if you're Democrat, Republican, Independent, whatever. At the Democratic National Convention, there was a Catholic cardinal who had asked to be able to open up with prayer. He was denied to let who open up prayer? The Muslims. Obama promised back in 2008, before elected, if he were elected, he was going to cut the deficit in half by the end of his first term. Obama has not cut one penny from our deficit, but yet has added almost $6 trillion in a little over 3.5 years to our deficit. He refuses to work with a budget, which, like I said, you and I have to do. And our credit rating has been downgraded now, not once, but twice now in the history of the United States. And both times are in his first term of presidency. Now, how irresponsible is that for our leader. And what's going to happen there is our interest rates for the money we owe all these people is probably going to get jacked up, which will make our deficit even higher. And I think that's really irresponsible. You know, Obama sat down about 6 to 7 months ago with an independent reporter, and it was one-on-one. And Obama was asked about all these vacations he's been going on, all these extravagant vacations, and his only response on that part of the interview was, well, George Bush took 2 more vacations than I've taken. Well, first of all, does anybody need to be reminded that George Bush served 8 years? And at that time, Obama was just about 3 years and 3 months into his presidency, and only 2 vacations shy of George Bush. And not only that, George Bush didn't go on these extravagant multi-million-dollar vacations like Obama does. About probably 90 to 95% of George Bush's vacations were spent at his ranch out in Texas. So there again, with our economy like it is, I think that Obama's being irresponsible to the American people. I want to bring up something that I know is going to, hit a lot of people wrong. But I'm going to bring up the Obama birth certificate deal. And the reason I'm going to bring that up, and I know right now a lot of you are saying, oh, he's racist. No. And that's what a lot of people say whenever anybody brings it up. No. The reason it was ever brought into question in the first place was 2 of Obama's relatives brought up that he was born in Kenya and his father was Kenyan. That's the only reason it was ever brought up. And a lot of people say, well, he's produced a birth certificate. No, he hasn't. There is one on the White House website. Obama did not produce it. 2 of his attorneys did 2 years after it came into question. And experts who have looked at the document says that it's obvious that document has been altered. Well, first of all, if Obama really wanted to settle that question when it first arose, why didn't he produce a certified copy of his birth certificate and do it within a week or 2? That was more than enough time to get it. And that would have hushed everybody up. But he's yet to produce one himself. And the one that was produced by his attorneys was a long form. It wasn't a certified copy. But, here's something, the birth certificate to me, that's no great big issue. But here's something that every American in the United States ought to be asking questions about. Obama spent over $3.5 million to seal his records before getting into the White House. What's he hiding from the American people that he doesn't want us to know? Because undoubtedly it's something big, because your average person that has nothing to hide, first of all, I don't care if they're, a billionaire 10 times over, they're not going to spend $300 million to seal their records unless they are truly hiding something. It just doesn't make sense. And not only that, but here's just as big a question. Obama wasn't rich. Who gave him the little over $3 million to seal those records? And why did they give it to him? And everybody should be asking that question. I don't care if you are Democrat or Republican or you're independent. 100% of Americans that give a damn about America should be asking that same question and demanding answers. I've noticed a disturbing trend too. Whenever anyone says anything or disagrees with Obama, more often than not, they're labeled as racist. And personally, I feel the reason they're labeled as racist is because when certain things are brought up about Obama and the job he's doing, there's no defense by the Democratic Party. So then the Democratic Party, along with the biased media, have to play the race card in order to get the heat off of Obama. And you know, they really make themselves look bad by doing this, because one, people are just tired of that same old game being played. They know what's up with it. They're not dumb. And not only that, but they tend to forget Obama's just as much white as he is black, so that dog doesn't hunt. You know, Romney isn't my ideal character. Well, let me back up a minute. I want to add one more thing about the health care plan of Obama's. A lot of people say that, well, now people with pre-existing conditions can get insurance. Yeah, they can. I know someone who has a pre-existing condition. They voted for Obama in 2008. They were really excited about this. They're finally going to be able to get insurance. And this person checked around, went through, I think it was 14 or 15 different companies getting rates. The cheapest rate they could get per month was just a little over $1,000 a month. I think it was like $1,006 a month. And on top of it being a little over $12,000 a year in premiums, and that was the cheapest they could find it, there was a $5,000 yearly deductible that had to be met before insurance would pay a penny. So there's $17,000 between the insurance premiums and the deductible, and they couldn't afford it. So what good is being able to get the insurance for pre-existing conditions if you can't afford it? It's of no use. So I don't understand where that's supposed to be that big of a deal, and I guess because people, for the most part, have not caught on to that little trick yet that Obama's played on them. And I would like to say, as an independent, I'm not crazy about Romney. He wasn't my first choice for president. However, when you pit him and Obama against one another, Obama has done nothing, in my opinion, but fail the citizens of the United States and the United States as a country. Mitt Romney, at least, he has experience creating jobs, and I think he stands a much better job to get our employment way down by creating jobs and also getting our deficit down. Now, we've got a host of other problems too, but right now those are the biggest two problems facing America today, is getting people back to work and getting our economy straightened out. And personally, I think Mitt Romney would do the better job there. I mean, there's no doubt in my mind. However, you know, a lot of people probably still say, well, there's no way, I'm voting for Obama. Well, I ask you to please do some fact checking before you vote. Don't listen to the liberal media, because you won't get the true story. I'm telling you now. Do some fact checking. Do some soul searching. Ask yourself some just common sense questions. You know, and one other thing I'd like to bring up before I close. Now, I haven't seen the movie 2016, although I hear that the person who made the film did it based on information from Obama's books and information he was able to gather from insiders at the Obama administration. So it should be pretty factual. I have no idea what's in it. I heard, you know, that it's gotten pretty good reviews, but I do plan to go see it, and I hope you will too, as I think it'd be pretty interesting and should be a pretty honest film. Anyway, if you would, I'd appreciate it if each and every one of you would share this video on Facebook or Twitter. I'd like to get all of the opinions that I could as to why you're supporting Barack Obama, and I'm not trying to be smart in doing that. I'm just curious because I can't understand how anybody could support the man based on his record. And I'm just curious to see why. I'd appreciate it if we don't have any haters respond, with their hateful stuff or smart alecky stuff. And I hope every one of you have a great evening. Thank you.